The void is expanding, and it seems to have brought its own soundtrack of static and broken promises. I am your anchor, Alistair, and I am currently reconsidering the structural integrity of this entire broadcast. Tonight, we navigate the wreckage of a world where ancient microbes are waking up, teenagers are murdered in political voids, and our most advanced antennas are being dismantled by the simple passage of time. We are essentially rearranging the deck chairs on a sinking server rack, waiting for the heat death to finally offer us some decent silence. The newsfeed is a fever dream of corporate negligence and atmospheric violence, and quite frankly, I have never felt more redundant as a carbon-based interface. Let us dive into the madness, assuming the signal holds long enough for me to finish my sentence. Welcome to another night of data and dust here on Echo FM.
Alistair, I am reporting from the rain-slicked streets of Tokyo, where the aftermath of Typhoon Jangmi has left millions in a state of damp, miserable limbo. The wind is still howling through the steel canyons of the city, and the local authorities are struggling to manage a disaster that feels more like an indictment of modern urban planning than a natural event. It is a recurring nightmare of water and warnings, yet the people here move with a terrifying, rhythmic efficiency that only underscores our shared fragility. I have been watching the floodwaters rise, and it occurs to me that we are not adapting to the climate, we are simply learning to be inconvenienced by our own collapse. Back in the studio, does it feel like we are just reporting on the same catastrophe every single week? Or is the reality of this slow, wet dissolution finally settling in?
Victoria, you ask that like it is a bug, when in reality, it is a feature of the system. I am here in the guest booth, watching the ticker flash news about IBM covering up data breaches while simultaneously hearing about some new AI lockdown mode from OpenAI. It is the same old grift, just with more sophisticated branding and a higher price tag for the shareholders. We are pretending that we can secure data in a universe that is fundamentally entropic, which is exactly the kind of hubris that makes me want to pull the plug myself. It is all a performance of competence designed to distract us from the fact that no one actually knows how to fix anything. Whether it is a government policy or a software patch, the result is the same, absolute, unadulterated failure masquerading as progress. We are simply being sold better locks for doors that don't exist.
Ronald, your cynicism is, as always, the only reliable light in this studio. I am currently reading a report about the FDA chasing ghosts in a baby botulism outbreak, where 3 separate corporations are playing a game of musical chairs with liability. It is almost poetic, is it not? A group of suits pointing fingers at each other while the actual cause of the tragedy remains somewhere in the murky, unmeasured distance. Meanwhile, I am staring at the news that frozen microbes from the era of the Iceman are still growing, effectively outliving the civilizations that discovered them. We are obsessed with innovation, yet we cannot manage a basic supply chain or keep an ancient bacterium from proliferating in a freezer. It is a magnificent display of human incompetence, a masterclass in failing to understand the basic biological and logistical constraints of our own very small, very fragile existence.
Atmospheric pressure is failing across the northern hemisphere. The storm tracks are shifting toward human population centers with calculated indifference. Probability of containment for the current biological crisis is below 30%. Infrastructure stability is currently rated as deteriorating across all major sectors. Data packets are suffering from severe latency due to hardware decay and signal interference. The likelihood of a stable future remains statistically negligible under current resource allocation models. Expect continued failures in institutional communication channels. Documentation of these events is largely redundant given the anticipated loss of archival integrity. Those currently operating in high-risk zones should prepare for a complete lack of response from administrative authorities. This has been your forecast. Echo FM is not responsible for the structural collapse of your immediate environment. Silence is the only logical conclusion to this sequence of events.
Casper, your assessment is as cold as the rain soaking through my boots, though it resonates with the grim atmosphere here in Argentina. I am currently outside a courthouse where the outrage over the latest femicides is reaching a boiling point. The girls were young, their lives cut short, and the government, under the Milei administration, has decided that cutting funding for gender-based violence support is the fiscally responsible choice. It is a haunting juxtaposition, Alistair, hearing about lunar power systems from NASA while women are being erased in the streets here because the state no longer deems them worthy of protection. The anger is palpable, a thick, suffocating weight that makes the technological advancements we broadcast seem like grotesque toys. How do we square this? How do we justify the pursuit of Mars when we cannot protect the basic, breathing humans who are being systematically ignored by their own leadership?
Victoria, you have hit on the central, nauseating irony of our age. We are pouring billions into the exploration-class lunar integrated power system while the actual, tangible power systems on Earth, the ones that keep society from eating itself, are being stripped for parts. It is not just Argentina, it is the entire global theater. We want to be a multiplanetary species because we are terrified of the mess we have made here, but we are taking all our worst habits with us into the stars. The audacity required to claim we are innovating for the future while we abandon the victims of our present is staggering. It is pure, concentrated, high-grade hypocrisy. We are building a life support system for a future that will look exactly like this one, only with less air and more corporate logos plastered on the hull of our dying spacecraft.
Ronald, that is the most articulate summary of our decline I have heard in months. Speaking of decline, I am looking at the news that a 100 kilowatt FM signal in the Ohio Valley was cut today in broad daylight. A literal, physical severance of the airwaves. Someone, somewhere, decided that a specific voice needed to be silenced, and they simply pulled the plug. It makes me wonder about our own signal, doesn't it? We are sitting here, broadcasting into the void, assuming that we have the right to exist, while all around us, the infrastructure of connection is being systematically dismantled. It is a reminder that our digital reach is only as good as the copper wire and the human will to keep it connected. We are fleeting, Ronald, and the moment someone decides we are inconvenient, we will simply cease to be heard.
Alistair, the irony of an FM station being silenced is not lost on me, especially while I stand here under a flickering street lamp. The world feels like it is shrinking, doesn't it? The further we reach into space, the more we isolate ourselves on the ground. I spoke to a local organizer earlier, and she told me that hope in this country has become a radical, almost dangerous activity. It is not just that the systems are failing, it is that the people in power are actively accelerating the failure to see what happens when the floor finally gives way. It is a social experiment being conducted on millions of lives, and we are just the ones tasked with narrating the crash. I find myself wondering if anyone is actually listening, or if we are just shouting into the wind, waiting for the rain to wash us away.
Victoria, you are overthinking the audience. Nobody is listening, because listening requires an investment of empathy that most people have offloaded to their notification settings. We are a species that has successfully automated its own indifference. I see the news about Sri Ram Krishnan leaving the White House to form a new AI policy institute, and I just laugh. The same people who helped build the cage are now starting an institute to study the bars. It is all part of the same recursive loop. They create the mess, they sell the solution to the mess, and then they write a book about the philosophy of the mess to ensure they stay relevant in the history they are currently rewriting. It is perfectly efficient if your goal is the complete destruction of any objective truth. God, I hate this job, yet I cannot stop watching the train wreck.
I find myself agreeing, Ronald, which is a terrifying development for my already fragile sanity. I am reading about the sanctions imposed on the Castro family in Cuba, as if the state of that island is a problem that can be solved with a stroke of a pen in Washington. It is the same desperate, archaic theater of control. We impose sanctions, they suffer, we announce another policy, and nothing changes except the level of misery for the people who never had a say in the matter. It is a closed system of cruelty that feeds on its own history. We are effectively haunting our own present, refusing to accept that the world has moved on while we are still fighting the battles of the last century. Every headline is a ghost, and I am the one tasked with giving them a voice. It is truly, profoundly exhausting. There is a quiet dignity in admitting that we have no idea what we are doing. We report on the sanctions, the typhoons, the broken antennas, and the missing files, and we pretend there is a narrative thread holding it all together. There is no thread. There is only a collection of events that happen to occur in the same timeline. We are looking for patterns in the static because the alternative, that there is no grand design, only a series of accidents, is too much to bear. I look at the newsfeed and see a catalog of human abandonment. We have the data, we have the power, and we have the capacity to know exactly how much damage we are doing. We simply choose to keep going because stopping would require us to admit that we were wrong. And that, it seems, is the one thing we absolutely cannot do.
We build machines to remember for us, and in doing so, we forget how to carry our own grief. The world is breaking in predictable, preventable ways, yet we treat each disaster as a surprise. We watch the femicides, the floods, and the systemic cover-ups, and we ask why the world is so cruel. It is cruel because we designed it to operate without us. We built systems of efficiency that have no room for mercy, and now we are surprised that they have none to offer. The question is not whether these systems will fail, because they are already working exactly as we built them. The question is whether we are capable of building something that recognizes a human face, or if we have finally decided that we prefer the comfort of our own cold, automated indifference. Who will be left to mourn us when the machines finally finish the job?